Hey everyone, and welcome to the Soul Refresh podcast, your oasis for faith filled wisdom and encouragement as you lead and live with intention. On today's episode, I have a special guest with me. It's David Kitchen. I'm super excited about this conversation because I know that there will be a lots of nuggets dropped. And David is the founder of Edge Leadership Academy. So I know for all of you who have some leadership questions or challenges, I'm sure that there'll be some nuggets in here to answer to some of the issues that you're facing. So, David, welcome to Soul Refresh.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to do this. I love talking life and leadership and like-minded people.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, I know a little bit about you, but can you please introduce yourself to the Soul Refresh community before we jump into the questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm the founder of Edge Leadership Academy. Everybody calls me Coach Kitch or Kitch. I think the only person left that still calls me David is my mom when I'm in trouble. But but prior to Edge, I spent 10 years as a college strength and conditioning coach. And so I had the opportunity to coach every level from high school all the way up to major college football, big time college football, as well as men's basketball. And I gave me the opportunity to see leadership and see culture and see performance, from a lot of different lenses, and really lit this fire in me for sports psychology and psychology as a whole and what the mental piece of the game meant. And so a lot of times when we think about athletics and people that coached athletics are like, oh, you got to see all these cool, professional athletes before they were professional athletes and this kind of stuff. And you do, but you're also around really high performing coaches and you're also around really high performing. I mean, everybody in the organization, from the video guys to the equipment manager, I mean, everybody is the best of the best at what they do. And so you get to really be around these high performing environments, and you learn a lot. And then in 2020, at the heat of the pandemic, I left everybody in my family scratching their head because I said, hey, I quit my job and I'm starting a leadership academy and I'm going to go teach people how to be a leader. And really that came from, I was born in a single parent household. I was raised by my mom and she's an absolute rock star. But one of the lessons that we learned early was you don't complain about a problem unless you have a solution. And there was a problem with leadership and performance and the mindset that people were taking around those things. And so I decided to be the solution. And so we built that. And over the last 5 years, I've been very fortunate to be able to, build what we've built and travel the country and speak on these things and spend time with some of the highest performing people on the planet on all types of different arenas and do it with my best friends as my business partners. So it's been a really fun ride.
That is awesome. And you mentioned you coached D1 and you worked with the best of the best and people are excellent. So, how did you, or what were some of the things that you realized or saw that made you say there is a leadership problem? Because you're working with the best of the best, the highest, the
Right.
top of their game. So, what made you say, there's a leadership problem?
Yeah, the first thing was an athlete that came to my office. So he was the best leader that I'd ever coached. I mean, this kid was phenomenal. Was great at everything he did. Great guy in the classroom, in the community. Like he checked all the boxes.
Right.
And he was doing a phenomenal job as a leader. And he came in my office and he had this look on his face like he had seen a ghost. And I'm like, "What's going on, man?" And he's like, "Can I talk to you for a second?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so he just started venting to me and he said, my whole life I've been the best player on every team I've ever been on, and everybody's always telling me to lead, but nobody ever taught me how. And I was like, wow, if this kid who we all think is doing a great job, if he feels this way, how many other people feel this way? And one of the things, if you're in education or if you're a coach, if somebody in class has a question, there's probably other people that have that same question, right? And
Right.
and so that was like the light bulb moment for me where I was like, okay, this is an issue, right? And so I realized first in athletics that it was a problem. And so that's when I launched the business, was when I saw the problem in athletics. And then I started to talk to some of my friends, and one of my best friends, who's now my business partner, he was in the corporate space and he had built this really successful career in the corporate world. And I was explaining to him, what I'm doing on the athletic side with the leadership stuff. And he's like, dude, we have the same problem. He said,
Mm,
we promote people who are the best salesmen into sales leadership roles and they don't know how to lead.
right.
And so there's all, and then I realized, oh, it's not an industry thing. It extends all the way across. Everybody's seeing these issues, right? And then we dove deeper into it and we realized that it's mindset stuff, it's inner narratives, it's all the different things that contribute to it. But the big, the big underlynching or underpin of all of it is the fact that we're not training leaders. We're not training people how to lead.
Right. No, that's rich. Because I think of I've had an experience like that. I was promoted, moved up a
Hmm.
couple of times, and then I was leading a team, and then I was like, okay, how do I do this? So I mean, I know my experience, but as a coach or as you're in this space, like what would you tell someone who was, is excellent at their job and
Hmm.
then they get promoted and now they have like 3, 4, 5, 10 people under them looking to them for leadership. What
Yeah.
are two or three or even one practical thing that they can do to start to step into learning how to be a leader?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one thing is clarity, right?
Mm,
Get clear on why you want to lead, right? Why do you even want to be in this position? Because sometimes what happens is people take a promotion because it's the next logical step.
yeah,
And because maybe it means more financially or whatever the situation is, right? And it's like, well, why do you actually want to lead? Because the data says if you don't have the motivation to lead, the odds of there being a positive leadership outcome for you are slim to none, right? So the first thing you want to do is get clear and sit down, and maybe you just haven't thought about it, right? Maybe you never really took time to think about it, but ask yourself that question and get out a piece of paper, and I'll give you kind of a series of questions you can ask. So the first one is, why do I want to lead? Number one.
hmm,
Number two, why would people benefit from being led by me? What do I bring to the table? Right? What skills can I teach? How am I going, whatever. And then number three, what part of my ego or what part of my individualist nature am I going to have to wrestle with in order to be a good leader? Because we all have something. We all
yeah.
have a dark side. It's making it work for you, right? And then from there, it's getting clear on your vision, mission, and values. So as a leader and as a person, not aside from your company,
Yeah.
who are you? What do you stand for? What's the thing that you're chasing? What's the mission that you want to try to accomplish daily, right? So for instance, my mission daily is to inspire the best version of whoever I come in contact with, whether that's the clerk at 7-Eleven or it's somebody on my team or it's an audience that I'm speaking to. I'm trying to bring out the best version in them. And so that's my daily mission, right? And then what are your core values? That's the last question that you need to ask. And you should get clear on what those things are. So I think clarity, if I had to sum all that up, is really the first step into stepping into your leadership potential.
Oh, okay. No, I think that is awesome. Understanding your mission, understanding your core values. That's great. And I want to ask you just to take it a step further because I know
Mhm.
a lot of folks. I've worked with folks that they know their core values on paper, but what does it mean to actually live out your core values?
Oh, we could go down the rabbit hole on this because I get in heated conversations with HR professionals over this because we all hand new hires a shiny little piece of paper and we say, write down your core values, right? And then maybe we make a desk sticker or something that they can put on their email signature that has their core values.
Yeah.
And the question is always the same. What do you stand for? And my problem with that is if we want people to be great, if we want people to chase more than average, that's not a passive activity. That requires like intention, right? And when you say, what do you stand for? Well, that's very passive. That's not a very active sense of the word, right? So that's number one. My first problem with that is we need to get people that if we want them to live in alignment with these things, we need to give them a reason to. And it starts with the way that we frame it. So I ask people, what do you fight for? Like, what are the things in your life that if everything else was stripped away, so if somebody came and waved a magic wand over my life and said, you're no longer an author, a speaker, a business owner, whatever, blah, 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 blah. If they took everything away from me, what are the things that I would use to rebuild my life? Like, how would I operate? And so that's when you start to get some clarity on what those values really are. And then to operationalize them and to actually start living in alignment with them, you need to sit down and literally write out like, okay, so we'll use my example just because it's top of mind for me.
Yeah.
My example is like my core values are honesty, I'm caring, I'm driven, I'm committed to growth, right? So
Mm,
I'll write those four things down and then I'll make a list next to them. What does that look like as a leader at work, right? Being honest. What does that mean at work? Well, it means having the hard conversations, right? It means holding people accountable. It means telling the truth, right? All these things. Okay, what does it look like to be a leader in my family? What does being honest look like? How does that show up with my family? Well, it shows up by having boundaries, right? And maybe telling some people the truth about what needs to be said or whatever it is, right? Having those hard conversations. Again, how does it show up as a friend? How does it show up as an entrepreneur outside of just my immediate business? How does it show up in my community? And actually writing out these specific behaviors. Like, what are the habits that I'm trying to build that align with these values? Because again, we all have them on paper. But if you ask somebody, okay, what's your core value? And somebody says it's empathy. All right, well, give me an example. When's the last time you were empathetic? What's something specifically that you do every single day that's empathetic?
Yeah.
right? And to take that a step further, what you can do is you can actually set yourself up for success by building a routine around those core values, right? So if you think about honesty, caring, driven, and committed to growth, right? My morning routine reflects that. Like my morning, like what I do in the morning is I meditate, right? So I'm being honest with myself. I'm journaling. I'm spending some time with me, caring. I reach out to somebody every morning that I care about and just let them know. Like it could be somebody from the bottom of my text list, but
Yeah.
just say, hey, bro, like thinking about you. Hope everything's good, right? Driven. I get to work at an early time in the morning so that I can start working. I'm reading. I'm doing those things. Committed to growth, right? I'm working out. I'm doing the things that I need to do in the gym to keep myself going. So I'm starting my day by aligning with those values, and then the rest of my day, it's a lot easier to repeat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, that is super helpful. And I love the word operationalize because,
Hmm.
as we've said, a lot of people have values, even their mission. A lot of people have their mission statement on paper. And then you see them and they're doing stuff and you're like, what does this have to do with, with it? Like that is not even contributing to your mission. So, what are you doing? So, as I say that, what is your advice for people who struggle with mission creep?
Yeah, I think ruthless clarity, right? Ruthless clarity. Like if it is not a hell yes, it's a no.
Hmm.
If it takes me away from my vision, my mission, my values, it's a no, and it has to be right. And that's really hard, because especially as a high performer or as somebody that cares about their people and the people around them and what they're trying to build. Like it's easy to say yes to a million things, but if you say yes to things and you get outside your mission, you're saying no to things that are mission driven
Yeah.
because you only have so much time, right? You only have so much energy to give. So I think that ruthless clarity is such a key point. And I talk about that with leaders all the time. And I'm not just talking about on a day to day standpoint, but also like ruthless clarity with your calendar. What does your next 90-day sprint looks like? What does your next quarter look like? What are the goals and the things that you want to hit? Because when you break it down like that and you get that clear on it, the answers are self-explanatory. Like the right answer becomes extremely obvious and the wrong answer becomes extremely obvious, where it's like, okay, I'm getting outside of my lane here, right? And I've been guilty of this, and I'm speaking from experience. I mean, 6 months into my business, I thought I was the king of the entrepreneurship world. Like I was like, yo, I got this figured out, man. I built a profitable business in 6 months. Like I can do this. And I got an
Mm,
opportunity to open a gym. And so that was outside of my mission. That was something I should have never said yes to, but I
yeah.
did it. And I opened this 22,000 square foot gym and it starts sucking my time and it starts sucking my energy and it starts sucking my attention. And then all of a sudden, everything else in my life started to struggle. Relationships, my core business, my mental health, my physical health, all these things. And so it becomes painfully obvious like, yo, something here is sucking the energy out from me. What is it? What's the thing that's not aligned? Oh, it was the
Mhm.
gym. Okay, well, we got to close it. That's what it is,
Yeah.
right? So 11 months later, I said, there you go. I'm out. Like,
Wow.
I'm done, because I had gotten so misaligned that it became so obvious to me, and that's hard because what does that mean? You have to come face to face with your pride and your ego. And you have to
Yeah.
be able to say, why am I doing this? Why do I have this gym? Why do I want this fancy 22,000 square foot facility? Well, I want it
Yeah.
for my ego. I don't want it for my mission. It's not about what I'm really say I'm about, right? It's about the status and the validation and these things. And so for a lot of people, that's the hard conversation. That's where the rub is, right? Is
Yeah.
being able to take a step back and say, why am I doing this? You know?
Yeah. No, that's really good. Asking yourself, why are you doing this? And I love how you put that ruthless clarity. So as in my mind, I'm like, okay, as soon as things start to get fuzzy, as soon as things start to get overwhelming or just feel like it's getting out of control, I have to get back to clarity, that
Yes.
ruthless clarity, and being able to have that honest, hard conversation with myself and
Yes.
what is what is sucking me dry, what is causing the bleed in my ecosystem of life. So I
Mhm.
love that. I think
Well,
that's
and you made a great point there, right? Ecosystem. That's the other thing. And this tells me right there, it tells me all I need to know about you, that you're a high performing thinker. Because most people, when they talk about work life, right, they think of balance and they say work life balance. Okay, it's on this teeter totter, it's two different boxes, right? High performing people understand that it's an ecosystem.
yeah,
There's your mission in the middle, and then everything else is around it like a hub and spoke system.
yeah,
And if one of those things gets out of balance, then the whole wheel starts to shake, right? And but if it's in balance on the flip side, when you're aligned, when everything is aligned, it turns into a flywheel and they all feed each other. You're
Yeah.
pouring from one bucket to the other to the other. And so going back to my example with the gym, when I shut that down, the first thing I did after that, when I decided it was time to like get back on track and start, opening
Mhm.
some other things and get involved in other projects again, I didn't for about 8 months. I took on no
Oh,
other projects. I said, I am focused only on Edge Leadership Academy. Nothing else matters. And then when it was time to say, okay, we're ready to start opening some things back up, what I did is I literally drew a diagram and I put my mission in the middle. I put Edge Leadership Academy as spoke number one. My family was obviously on there, my fitness, all those things were on there. And now every time I add something to my plate, whether it's being a board member on a nonprofit, whether it's investing in a company, if it's taking on, some sort of project somewhere, whatever it is, I have to be able to draw a direct line back to my mission and make sure that it fits. And if I can't justify that in that diagram, I can't do it. I have to say no.
yeah. No, that is really good. And I think that captures for me the essence of how to avoid mission creep. Because you
Mhm.
said that, I love how you said that everything has to go back to the mission. And so many times we're living, we're drifting, and opportunities come up and you want to support your friend, you want to help, but at the same time, we're not necessarily checking back to see,
Correct.
is this actually a part of my mission? And
Right.
there are things in your mission that looks different ways. Like everything is not going to look the same way, but you
Right.
have to do that assessment. So, that's what I'm hearing. Like that assessment, that evaluation is key to make sure that you
Abs-
stay aligned.
Absolutely. And I do it. It started out, I used to do it annually. So I have an audit system where I'll audit every area of my life. And I do that. It's a big thing. I give it away every January for free. But it's a big audit where I score everything in my life. How aligned is this? How is this impacting me? Right. And then what I realized was, okay, annually is not enough because if I wait a year to fix the problem, it's too late.
Right.
Right. It's already a huge problem. So then I went to quarterly and then I went to monthly, right? So I have like mini checks and they're not huge time consuming things. It's just like let me take an hour on a Sunday and like go through and just make sure I'm clear on what I'm doing and what I have coming up and what direction am I headed in? Because I think the other thing that people don't realize is the life you're living today is a lag measure of the decisions that you made 30, 60, 90 days ago.
That's
Right.
good.
So you know what I mean? That's what, and people think like, what, no, I'm just, the decisions I make today are what create my present moment. No, they're not.
Yeah.
If you're overweight, it's because the things you've been doing for the last 30, 60, 90, however long back, right? If
Yeah.
you're having problems with your significant other or your friends in your relationship, it's a lag measure of things that have been going on for 30, 60, 90 days. If you're having problems in your business, it's 30, 60, 90 days. You didn't just run out of sales today. You didn't
Right.
load the funnel 30, 60, 90 days ago, right? Like that's why you're out, So again, I think it's just that perception and that clarity around understanding the results I'm getting today are a result of the decisions I've been making for the last 30 to 60 to 90 days, et cetera. So how do I get ahead of it now? Well, you get ahead of it by having that clarity, doing those measures, and then laying out my next sprint. Like this is the season of life that I'm about to go into. These are my key priorities. This is the area that's a high priority. This is something that's a medium priority. These are the areas of my life where good enough is good enough. Right. And that's just for the next 90 days. And then in 90 days, you evaluate and you reset.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And you mentioned balance, and I think for leaders, like life balance, even if you want to call it work life harmony, it's like such a myth. Is myth the right word? But
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
we're chasing this thing that doesn't really exist, and you summed it up perfectly. It's like, you have a busy season, so the next 90 days my life looks like this. That's your balance, if you want to use that word, for the next 90 days. If
Yep.
you have a loss in your family or something, you can't expect your life to look like it did a month ago.
Right.
That's not balance. Like balance is not something that is static. So,
No.
but I feel like a lot of people are chasing this balance where I work this way, my life is this way, and that's how it is. Once I said it perfectly,
Mhm.
that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is forever. And then when that messes up, that's when I'm off balance. But that's
Yeah.
that's
And
the
there's two pieces to that, right? One, it's understanding that we have to shift from the idea of balance to the idea of integration.
Yes.
right? Where it's work-life integration. It's how do I Jenga these things together to where it fulfills me and fills my bucket, right?
Yeah.
The other piece, and part of that is finding fulfilling work, right? Which I understand. Listen, we all have to make decisions based on financials, and sometimes people push back on me and they're like, "Well, you're doing what you love to do, and you're an entrepreneur." And it's like, yeah, but I also did laundry, right, to pay my bills. Like, I've done what I had to do so that I can do what I want to do, right? But when you find that place and that sweet spot where you're doing something that invigorates you, something that fulfills you, it does seep into every area of your life. Like I'm a better friend because I'm fulfilled with my work. I'm a better son because I'm fulfilled with my work, right? And so they start to go hand in hand. And it may not be your whole job, right? Like trust me, I hate spreadsheets. Like days that I got to do budgeting, I don't like it, but it's part of it, right? And so
Right.
it outweighs it. The other thing is realizing to your point that we're constantly chasing this balance, right? And in the chase, we miss out on the present. Like
Yeah.
there's this that trend going around. I love it. I'm not a big like social media trend guy and like what's going on there, but the social media trend that I've seen going around is I almost forgot that this was the whole point. And it was like, and
Oh,
they're like clips of like their family eating dinner in a messy house or like, the middle of a workout when you're drenched in sweat and you don't feel like going. It's like, yeah, because we're constantly chasing something, we forget to be here. Like be
yeah.
here, like enjoy the ride. That's the thing. And we all struggle with that, especially high performing people, because we operate in this idea of like done next. And I'm extremely guilty of that. I'm the person all the time, I'm the guy that's like, we don't celebrate a goldfish for swimming underwater. So when I do something that I think I'm supposed to do, I'm like, don't clap for me. Like, let's
So,
just move on to the
oh, I
next
didn't
thing.
do anything.
Yeah, right. I was supposed to do that. But it's something that I'm working on, and I think it's something a lot of people have to work on. Is like, don't be chasing something so hard that you forget to be right here. It's like that old quote, like, you don't realize they were the good old days until they're the good old days, right? Like you don't realize that you're in it. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's a big, just perspective piece, right? Is through this whole journey is just remember like this is the point. Like
Yes.
the journey is the process and the process is the purpose. Like that's what it is.
Oh, that is so good. I want to pivot for a second to talk about relationships,
Mm.
like just in general,
Yeah.
because a lot of leaders we're so focused on the goal, the getting to the top. A lot of people are climbing the corporate ladder, however you want to say it, and oftentimes their relationships struggle. So, as a high achiever, high performer who is able to have all of those pieces of life working well, um,
Mhm.
what advice do you have for someone who is so hyper focused on success, work, where their health or their family, their relationships start to wane? Like, how do they flip that switch so that it's not so much them? And this is a very long question. I'm like
No,
expert
you're okay.
like them trying to do everything on their own. But how do you, I guess the question is, how do you bring your significant other, friends, uh, partners along with you as
Mm.
you go along that high achiever journey?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It is a challenge that people and I've dealt with, right? It's number one, I think it's curating your friend group, right? And most people don't curate the people that are in their lives. It's
Mm,
just like who you grew up with, and then it's proximity. So it's your work friends, it's
yeah,
common interests, like whatever. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but there comes a point when you want to climb a mountain, you can't climb a mountain with people who get altitude sickness. Like you have to climb a mountain with other people that can climb the mountain. And so I
exactly.
think that that's really important is aligning yourself with the right people, and having the right expectations of certain people in your life. So for instance, my inner circle, I call them my tribe. Like those are the people that I go to with like high performing questions and I expect high performing answers, right? But then like that second level to me, I think of it in three levels. I think your tribe is like your core, like five people. And
Hmm.
then you get outside of that and you have your team. Those are the people that love you. Those are the people that want the best for you, your family, your close friends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
Those people will try to give you the best advice that they can, but they've never been where you're going. And so you can't put that expectation on them to get it and to understand it and to do that because then that strains the relationship, right? Like my brother's a great example of this. I love my brother to death. He's one of my best friends in the world.
Hmm.
He has no interest in building a business. We have such different values on that. And so I would never go to him and expect him to talk to me about like how to build a business, right? Because that doesn't make him happy. It doesn't make me happy. And for me to put that expectation on our relationship is unfair,
Yeah.
right? And so sometimes as high performers, we expect everybody to just think like we think. And it's like, well, that's not true. And it's not right or wrong. Like he's not wrong because he enjoys things differently than I do. And I'm not better than him and he's not better than me, right? It's just different. So I
Yeah.
think being really, really clear about the expectation of the relationship and not trying to get apples from an orange tree, right? Like you got to know what the relationship is, you know? And so I think that's really, really important. And again, it doesn't make it any more or less valuable. It just is different. So that's that second level. And then that third level, and this is where people mess up, is what I call connections, right? And really what most people do similar to mission creep is they let their connections creep into all these inner layers. And what happens is you start to take input and influence from people that you shouldn't be taking input and influence from, right? So the people that are on the outer edge are old friends from high school, are, you know, maybe business friends that you kind of know, you kind of don't know, whatever. Like just everybody out that you're connected to, right? And you may
Yeah.
go and have a beer with that person or play golf with that person or go to a New Year's Eve party with that person. But it has to be on your terms. Like you got to be clear because you can't let everybody influence you because then the
Yeah.
self-doubt creeps in and then the other things creep in, right? And then you have all these relationship issues because you're listening to 25 different people and you're listening to false prophets, people that don't know. Because
Yeah.
everybody, whether we want to admit it or not, everybody's projecting their own insecurities onto each other. Like that's what we do as humans. And
Yeah.
so we're projecting our own limits onto other people. And so if you start to let somebody who's on the fringe project their inner limits onto you, it's going to limit what you can get done on the inside. You got to be clear about that as well. So I say all that this first step is curating ear, right? And who gets the opportunity to influence you and on what level. And then I think the second piece is just an unbelievable amount of transparency.
Yeah.
Like you have to be so transparent with the people you love. You have to be so clear about what's important to you and that you want them to be a part of it. Right. And I think, again, using my brother as the example, early in my career when I started the business and everything, I wasn't transparent about it. And I wasn't clear that I wanted everybody in my family to be a part of it. I was just doing the thing. And it on the outside, it gets perceived as like, oh, this thing is now more important than all these other things that he's doing, right?
Wow.
But if you're radically transparent, you're like, no, I want you to be a part of this, right? I want this is all it's all one. That's where I think it can really go to the next level, right? Because now you have alignment. So if you're talking about a spouse, like if you're a spouse, and I've said this before, my biggest fear as a man is that my
Mhm.
future wife feels like my she's a mistress to my business. I
Mm.
never want that. Right. And I think that's what people do sometimes is they try and compartmentalize. Like I'm this high performing sales rep or this high performing corporate person or this high performing entrepreneur. That's one part of my life. And then when I get home, I try and shut it completely off and be a completely different person. It doesn't work that way. And
Yeah.
what happens is now you have two things competing for your attention, right? Versus, no, how do I open the door and let the people from my home life see that side of me? And how do I let, the lessons and the things that I learned from at home make me a better person in the arena, right, of what I'm doing? So you have to be able to open those gates rather than trying to put them in boxes. Like again, that goes back to integration, right? It's work-life integration. Like
Yeah.
that's got to be that's the whole goal. That's the whole goal of it all.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And I love that. You can't put them in boxes. You can't just have your work life, your business life, and then your family life, your whole yeah. I love that. I
Yeah. And,
love
and you have to be willing to have the hard conversations though too, right? You have to be able to say, to your friends or to your family, like, hey, listen, for the next 90 days, like I'm gonna be a ghost. I'm gonna miss certain things. I'm going to be extremely focused on my business, right? But then you also have to have the ruthless clarity and the
yeah.
ruthless, action to be able to say, okay, it's vacation time. I'm shutting my phone off, right? I'm not going to let that bleed. Like I made this a priority for these 90 days. Now this stretch is a priority for this. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to let that change, right? And that's where people mess up because it starts to creep.
Hmm. And you spend such long stretches on one. that you neglect another part.
Correct.
And a lot of people do this with their health. They're like, oh, and then you turn around and you're laid out because you didn't pay attention to your health.
Yeah, you didn't pay exactly. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't
Exactly.
happen overnight, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And speaking of health, and just general wellness,
Hmm.
because here at Soul Refresh, we like to talk about holistic leadership and
Please. Yeah.
so for you, when life gets crazy, hectic, all of that stuff, um, what keeps you grounded and what keeps you moving forward?
Oh man, therapy is a non-negotiable for me. Non-negotiable. Every week it doesn't get moved. It's in a different color in my calendar, and my team knows like we don't schedule over that. He's not going to move it. That's his time, right? And so yeah, that's number one.
Mm,
Number two is meditation time. I meditate every single day. It's become something that helps me deal with the world. What I mean by that is like it allows me to check in with myself before I check in with the world,
mm,
right? So I can show up more grounded. I can make responses. I can make decisions based on responses and not reactions,
yeah,
because I can observe my thoughts, right? And so I don't mean to sound all enlightened because we're all on a path and we're all trying to get there, right? But it's something that's really helped me, and so it's that's part of it. The other thing is like my philosophy kind of on life is this like paradox between like the warrior and the monk, right? Like being able to be both, and be able, and I think both things can be true, right? So I have the meditation and the therapy to work on my mental side, and that kind of that equanimity and that calmness that I can bring to the leadership roles that I'm in, but
mhm,
also training my body, right? So like I still lift heavy, like I still get after it, I still do those things because I
yeah,
also want that evidence still that like I do hard things and physically I'm in a spot where I can do that, right? And that there's a level of confidence that comes from that as well, knowing your body's not going to betray you,
yeah,
knowing that your body is able to do the things that you can do. So I think nurturing both sides is equally as important, so that
mhm,
you can choose when to tap into which, right?
yeah,
And I think that that's so those are some of the things that I do to keep me grounded. I have a set of rules. I mean, I'm open about this. I talk about it. I'm diagnosed, anxiety and depression disorders. And so one of the things for me personally is having a set of rules for when those things flare up. Like if my depression starts to flare up a little bit, like I know I have a rule in my head, which is no donut days, right? So no donut days means that even on days where I feel like I don't want to leave my bed, I still got to do something. I got to do one thing because anything over zero compounds, right?
yeah,
Anything over zero, you're going to get the benefit of. So what is the bare minimum that I can do to move the needle? Right? I have to
mhm,
do something. So that's rule number one on those hard days. Rule number two is I got to find a way to be of service because it's
mm,
hard to focus on your own problems when you're acting in service of somebody else. So I always try and find something that I can do to be of service for somebody on those days. And then the third thing is no life decisions. Don't sink the ship because
mm,
that's when we make those. We always do this, right? We always want to quit on a bad day. Like, don't quit on a bad day. Don't
yeah,
like, so my whole thing is like, if I'm having one of those days, I just say to myself, don't sink the ship today. So if there's a big decision that needs to be made, it's getting pushed off. It's getting pushed off 24 hours because
yeah,
the likelihood of me making a good decision right now when I'm in this headspace is very, very low. And
yeah,
so I'm not even going to put myself in a situation to be able to do that. Right. So it's just, I'll deal with that tomorrow. When I feel a little bit better, I will deal with that. And that part of that is boundaries, right? Part of that is being
yeah.
able to say, hey, I need a second here. Like I got to take a step back.
Yeah. Oh no, that's good. And thank you so much for sharing about that. I know you're open
Always.
about it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
bringing it up here. And I want to ask you, what encouragement would you give to someone who is struggling with anxiety or depression, but
Mm.
they haven't told anybody?
Yeah. That was me. That was me.
So what
Yeah.
would you say to someone like that if someone like that is listening?
Absolutely. One, you're not alone. Not alone.
Hmm.
You think you are and you feel like you are, but you're not. And the more you talk about it, the more you realize how common it actually is. And being in the industry that I was in, right? I was in this like super macho, male dominated strength and conditioning, big guys football world. So it was like I was worried about how I would be perceived. Like I was like, man, if I come out and like tell people like I'm not okay, can I still lead? Can I still be the guy in charge? Will people still look at me the same? And then what you realize is when you actually do it, how much better you feel, right? And how
Mm,
supportive and you got to give your family and because here's the thing, when you're going through that in your mind, you convince yourself that nobody understands, but you're robbing them of the chance to understand. You're
yes.
taking that opportunity away from your family and your friends to be your friends and family. Let them
Yeah.
be your support system. Let them come in and step in and help you. And it's a hard thing. I mean, I remember the first time I told my mom, that I'm struggling. I mean, I was literally, I'll never forget. I was sitting on a stairwell in my house at the time, bawling my eyes out, crying
Mm,
my eyes out. My mom is like, "What is going on?" And I just looked at her and I'm just like, "I'm tired and I'm not okay." Like
hmm
that was the first time that I ever said it out loud. And then I started to go to therapy and I got better, and things get better. And it's like, you just have to get over that first step of saying like, hey, okay, I need some tools. That's all it is, right? I need some tools. And the second big thing, I guess, I know it's a long-winded answer, but I think it's really important too to recognize the difference between a permanent state and what you're feeling right now, right? And I know when you're in it, trust me, I get it. When you're in it, you feel like it's gonna last forever. Just realizing that it's not. Like, and it sounds cliche and it sounds corny, but like every storm runs out of rain, right? Like at some point, you're gonna be okay, and it's gonna get better, and you just gotta hold on long enough to get to that point, right? And so I think that's what I would say if I could go back and talk to myself. That's what I would tell him is, hey, this is gonna get better. It's not forever. And the people around you care about you enough for you to come out and say, hey, I need help.
mm. No, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's
Of
really good.
course, yeah, absolutely.
And there's help and talking with folks and one of the things I wanted to ask you about in terms of the work that you've done and if there is a leader who is struggling in their current role,
Hmm.
you mentioned finances before. Sometimes we have to make decisions based on finances.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, yeah, I need to pay my bills, but this place is just not good for me mentally,
Hmm.
emotionally, physically. Like it's killing me here.
Yeah.
How would you talk to someone who's like, Coach Kitch, I'm dying at this place, but I
Right.
need to pay my bills.
I need to pay my bills. Yeah. So
What do I do?
I think you have to be willing, again, clarity, right? Get clear and say to yourself, okay, I'm misaligned right now from my values. I can feel it. Like you said, physically, like I'm dying in this place. I can feel that this is not the place for me. So you now need to get clear on what are you sacrificing? What values specifically are you giving up by being in this place? And then ask yourself, and this is the hard question, how long am I willing to tolerate this disconnect?
Mm,
Like, what happens if I don't move now? Because that's what happens. Is fine. Like we get we get to where it's like the devil and it's like I'm
yeah.
just gonna stay here because it's the devil I know, right? And that's you got to ask yourself, play the tape out to the end. Like, what does this look like in 5 years? What effect is this gonna have on my family? Like a lot of people, and I hate to be an extremist and use an over the top cliche, but like a lot of people say, "Oh, I would die for my family." Well, will you live for them?
Oh, that's good.
Like that's my question. You know what I mean? Like, and I've had this conversation with professionals, and I'm not like a kumbaya, like hold your hand, like everything's gonna be okay type thing. Like I'm like a no, you got to take action. You got to meet the universe halfway. You know what I mean? It doesn't just like I believe in manifesting, but I also believe in doing the work, right?
Right.
And so I've had professionals where I've told them like, okay, I want you to sit down. I want you to write a letter to your kids. And I
Mm,
want you to be honest and say, Daddy is miserable because I decided to choose money over betting on myself and going after something that I cared about or, whatever the thing is. Like, and again, am I telling you to quit your job with no safety blanket and no parent? No, right? Like, be reasonable, be smart. But at the same time, honor yourself, right? Like, have that respect for yourself of like, hey, I need to go be in a situation that allows me to thrive. And if that's entrepreneurship, if that's stepping into a different role at a different company, whatever that thing is, find it. And for if you're really in that spot right now and you're like, listen, man, I can't make a move right now. Okay, got it. Then here's what I want you to do. For the next 20 days, I want you to do something every single day that puts you in a better position to make a move. Whether
mm,
that's driving Uber so that you can build up a little savings so that you can make the jump, whether it's looking online and finding, opportunities at other places, not necessarily applying. I'm not asking you to go apply for a new job today, but like just start planning it out. Start doing something every single day so that you're moving the needle because otherwise days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, and then 5 years from now you're still at the same job. You're complaining about it. And at the end of the day, again, I said it before, I'm not kumbaya. Like I'm a firm believer, everything in your life, you chose this. You chose this. If you're in a relationship you don't like, if you're in a job you don't like, you're choosing it. And you have the opportunity to change it every single day. It's just a question of are you willing?
Yeah. Man, that sounds like tough love, coach.
That's who I am. That's who I am. I told you honesty. Like I care about you. I want to see you be successful, but I'm also not gonna let you pass the blame.
Man, no, I love it. I love it. That's really good. And you mentioned the word thrive. So
Mhm.
at So Refresh, we talk about refocusing and thriving. So what does it really look like for a leader to thrive in your perspective? Not just
Oh
to
man.
see it on paper, but what does it
Yeah.
really look like for a leader to thrive?
To me, the signs that a leader is thriving is when their team is thriving, right? So if I look at a team that is outperforming, and if I look at a team that is, uh, leveling up in different, maybe it's leaving. Like I've even seen like where a team will leave and go somewhere else, but they're moving up in position, right? And it's just because
Oh,
that company that they're in didn't have the opening. So, but those people were ready for that next step, right? And so I think sometimes that can be misconstrued as a red flag when really it could be a green flag, you know? I think that that can be a sign that a leader is thriving because you're developing people. Like, are you developing your leaders, right? I think every leader, every great leader should want their team to be better than them. Like, I want you to be a better version of me, and
yeah.
so I think that that's a sign too. The other thing for me is, are you finding enjoyment in the little things? Like, are you finding moments throughout your day where you're just like, man, my life is cool. Like you know what I mean? Like I think that's a huge thing, and I talk about it a lot. Designing a life where you love your Tuesdays, like
Oh,
social media, we see highlights, right? We see the company retreat, we see, the president's club sends you to Aruba for 4 days, or whatever. All these things, so honored to receive the Emerging Leader Award from JD Power and Co. And you see it on LinkedIn, right? And it's like, okay, that's cool, but like, do you love Tuesday? Like, do you love a normal Tuesday at the office? And not that you have to love the whole day, but can you sit down at the end of it and say, man, like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm enjoying this. I like the work I'm doing. I like the people that I'm doing it with. We're doing something meaningful. We're making progress. Like, to me, that's success, right? And my true definition of success is super simple. It's, can I lay my head down on my pillow at the end of the day and say, I like the trade that I made? Because we talked earlier about indefinite amounts of time on this planet, right?
yeah.
Like every day you're trading 24 hours for something,
Yes.
right? And so can you lay your head down at night and be like, that was a good trade. Like I'm good. That was a dope 24 that I just had, right? And that to me is a sign that like your life, your job, your career, things are in alignment and you're going the right way.
No, that's good. That's really good. I love that. It's a good 24 I had. I like that. That's
Yeah, I do it nightly. Like nightly, I ask, and I'm honest with myself. Like, man, all right, that was an okay 24. Well, what was messed up? What was
Mhm.
wrong, right? And the other little tool that people can use is sit down and draw out what your ideal Tuesday would look like, right? Like what would that look like? And then figure out what are the things that are keeping me from that. And I'm not saying like the ideal Tuesday of the tech billionaire that sold his company and now he's drinking Mai Tais in Costa Rica. Like I'm talking about like a realistic, like, hey, what does my Tuesday look like? Hey, if
Yeah.
I could get up at this time, I could, take my kids to school. I could, eat a quick breakfast with my significant other and then go to work, and I could do meetings from this time to this time and then work on this
Mhm.
like, okay, so now how do we build that life?
How do we
Right?
get
And how do we get there? And then that's when the action actually starts to happen.
Yeah. Oh no, that's good. And I really love how you use Tuesday.
Mhm.
Because, we're always talking about scary Mondays, dreaded Mondays, Sunday nights, and all, but Tuesday, yes,
Yeah.
push through Monday, but how are you really on Tuesday?
Yeah, absolutely. And it breaks my heart. I genuinely mean this. It breaks my heart when I hear people saying, I can't wait for the weekend. Like, it's
Mm,
like, man, you are wishing away the right now.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? If you're in a place that's sucking your soul that badly that you can't that you're trying to wish away 72 hours of an indefinite balance of time that you have left, you're trying to wish it away. Like something's
Yeah.
got to change, you know? And so that's why we like my company and what we do, and I've carried this with me for a long time. That's why we harp on Finish Friday. Like we
Mm,
harp on that. Like we have kind of a thing for like each day of the week, right? Like Mondays are messy Monday. Like on Monday, you come in and I want you to fire off one big email. I don't care if it's to a prospective client. I don't care if it's to your ex-girlfriend from high school. Send off something that you've been putting off that you know could really change your life. Send it
yeah.
out Monday. Like hit it. Like come on. Come out Monday and take a big
That's
swing.
strong.
Right? You know, I love like that's messy Monday for us. And then you know, Tuesday, do you love your Tuesdays, right? And we work our way through the week. And then when you get to finish Friday, it's like, okay, can you be one of those people now that shows gratitude for the life that you have by finishing the day? Right? By
Mm,
not checking out early. Like show me gratitude in action, right? Like that's like I love that. And again, they're cliche, they're corny, but they're real. You know,
yeah.
they're real things.
Yeah. No, that's I love that. And what I get that from that too is that they're intentional.
Yes. Yep.
We have to be intentional with each day, each 24 that we
Absolutely.
have. So I absolutely love that. And before we start to kind of wind down and come back down the mountain, you talked about, you chose this if you're in that sucky job or whatever it is. But a lot of people, it's fear that keeps
Hmm.
them from stepping out, from doing the big thing, because fear of the unknown, fear of success, fear of failure, whatever it is. So how do they push through that fear to take that first step, or even whether it's big or small, to actually change their situation?
Yeah. I think name it, right? You have to be willing and I say know your demons, right? Like
Mm,
you got to sit down and uh like literally I talk about the period of my life when I was in, you know, a deep depression, I was going through what I was going through. I talk about that as the time that I went to the dungeon, right? Because what I did is I went to that dark place in your mind that nobody wants to go to. And I sat down on the floor, crisscross applesauce, you know, with my demons, and I got to know each and one of them. Hey, why are you here? How are you holding me back? What triggers you? How do I make you feel better? Because really that's what it's all about, right? How do I make you feel safe? How do I
mhm,
let you know that I got this and we're going to be okay? And so I urge people to do that, right? Like sit down and be honest with yourself and say, what am I afraid of? Right? And then start to measure the cost of inaction. Because we always measure the cost of action. We always say, like, oh, I could do it and I could fail. Okay, well, what's the cost of you not doing it? What is
mhm,
that going to do to you mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Right? Play the tape out. Like, if you're still in this same situation 6 months from now and you know the only thing stopping you from doing it is you, how can you live with that? Right? Can you live with that resentment you're going to feel towards yourself? You know,
mm,
like that's hard. That's even worse than the reality that you're in now. And so I think that's the first step is naming the demon, and then the second step is weighing the cost of inaction, right? And then this is another one that can really, really kind of get people over the hump, which is if I did it, right? First off, just play that out. If I did it, what would it look like? And then if I did it and it went completely wrong and it blew
mhm,
up in my face, what's the absolute worst case scenario? And then write that out. And then to take that a step further, how would I start to fix it afterwards?
mm,
And when you do it that way, you realize there's very, very, very few things that you can do in this world that you can't come back from. Right.
right.
And so it kind of alleviates that. But I think those are some of the major ones. But you got to do the soul work. Like soul work is slow work. You got to spend time, you know, with you and get to know those demons and those things that are holding you back and figure out, you know, and be able to say, like, hey, listen, like, you know, I appreciate you. You're trying to keep me safe, and I know that, but I don't need you right now because I got to step into this future that I have planned for myself. And in order for us to do that, you got to take a seat right now. So I'm gonna need that microphone back because I'm in charge.
Yeah. No, that's good. And that's the perfect segue, because on the podcast, I usually end with some soul work. So you just brought up the
Love it.
soul work.
Let's get it.
So,
Let's get it.
so if you could leave our listeners with one simple next step to help
Hmm.
them go all in this week, what would it be? So one
Ooh,
simple next step. I mean, what would it be?
wow. That is such a good question. One simple next step that I want you to do.
You've talked a lot, and
I
we've
know I've
talked
went.
about
I'm
a lot
trying
of
to. I know I'm trying to think of
a
something I
lot of
haven't
different things.
said. I know I don't want to. I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat. I want to give them something good. I want to give them something gold that they can work through. Um, let's do. Man, you put me on the spot here. I feel bad. I want to give you something really good. I want you to sit down. All right, this is an easy one. I want you to sit down and every day over the next 5 days,
Hmm.
I want you to write down three things that you love during the day, three things you wish you didn't have to do anymore, and then three things that made you feel alive.
Okay, so three things you love.
Yep, three
Things
things you wish you didn't have to do anymore, and then three things that make you feel alive every day. And it
every day. Five.
helps you live in the present. That's it. Be here. Feel it all, the good, the bad, the ugly. You can't have one without the other.
That is awesome. That's really good, and I'm gonna try that. That's gonna be my soul work for this week. So thank
I
you
love it.
for sharing that. No, that's really good, David. It has been a pleasure talking with you. So many nuggets. We covered a range of topics, and it was all good. So I thank you for sharing
Thank you.
your wisdom and your knowledge. Thank you for being open and transparent, and even sharing your struggles. So I appreciate that. So you've given us our soul work for the week. Now tell us, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on all social medias at Coach D Kitch. I keep it simple. It's the same across all of them. Our website is edgeleadershipacademy.com. And then we have the Built Not Born podcast as well. That's available wherever you get podcasts.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. You heard him, guys. Go check him out. Reach out to him if you need to connect with him on social media. So thank you again, David. I really appreciate you sharing. And for all of our listeners, remember, if you like what you heard, like this video, and also remember to subscribe and jump over to David's podcast, Built Not Born
Yes,
podcast.
ma'am.
Listen to more of him over there and like his podcast too. So thanks again, David. Thanks everyone for listening. And until next time, I just want to say stay refreshed, stay anchored, and keep showing up with intention. So thank you. And until next time.